Okay, so today we're going to be working with Simplified Landscapes, and we're going to do then watercolor uh, and then some pastel. If we have time, we'll try both of those. So Simplified Landscapes, really what we're going to focus on is creating an interesting environment. So it's really composition is what we're talking about, more than actually, how do you paint a landscape? Okay, so it's really a composition sort of thing. So let me switch over to here. So these are, we've already gone over some of these, the elements that we're going to include in there, and we're going to work with very simplified. Deciduous trees, just sticks and circles and ovals, but we remember not this way where we have the big, huge trunk and tiny, tiny little foliage. We want to have big amounts of foliage and tiny and, smaller trunks. Coniferous trees, we want to, fairly triangular. You can alter it, manipulate your triangles however you like, but we do want to avoid this, I don't know, what do you call this, an arrowhead or this sort of chevron shape, where we don't want our tree. This is a very common mistake, that we create these trees that have more of this sort of shape where the sides are running parallel. Okay, pretty much coniferous trees always do come to roughly a point at the top. Okay, they're going to be more jagged, of course, but we're simplifying. Okay, so we're not going to bother with that. We're keeping stuff very simple. We want to have a focal point, and so for a focal point, we're just going to put in buildings for fun. If you think of something else that you want to do instead, that's totally fine. Again, how to keep simplified landscape from getting boring. We want to focus on these sort of things. As we divide up the space, try to divide it up into triangles, working with diagonal lines and curves, and we want to try to avoid parallel lines. Okay, so that's where we're going to be going. And we'll go ahead and grab a piece of paper. I'm just working with scrap paper here. That's all we need. And so first thing we want to do is create some sort of box. And I'll just start off with a horizontal first. This first one, if you want to copy me, that's totally fine. But you certainly don't have to. Okay, so this is going to be my frame, so I'm going to work with a horizontal first. And the first thing that we'll do is divide our ground from our sky. And as I said, so I'm going to keep this up here to remind us. Okay, there we go. So to help remember this, we're going to divide up, not with a perfectly straight line, definitely not in the center. We always want to try to think of thirds if we can, or something like that. And we'll just go across, and I'm going to put it on just a bit of an angle. And it has even a slight little bit of a curve. Okay, so we can do that. And then we are now going to divide a bit of this space. And so we want to think of triangles. So let's not make it parallel. We can go in any direction. I can start way down here and get closer on that end, or the opposite. But on one side, I'm going to be a little bit closer. That's sloping this, well, yeah, so I'm going to slope this one just a little bit that way. Okay, so you can see they're not perfect triangles, but you should understand what I mean by triangular, right? And why not throw a little bit of background in there? Even we can, create another triangle. Why not? Okay, so nothing's parallel. I've got slight curves. Everything is diagonal. It doesn't have to be dramatically diagonal. Why not throw something in the background here? Well, let's first, actually, before we do that, let's create a focal point. So let's put in one of our buildings. Okay, create any type of building that you want. As I talked about, even avoiding parallel lines in our buildings makes it a little bit more interesting, more fun. We don't need to worry too much about perspective. You can exaggerate, make them extra tall and skinny or short and squat, whatever you want to do. So I am going to put mine right here. Again, we want to try to avoid center if we can. We don't have to, but it's often good to. So I will go ahead and I'm going to put one kind of near the back. And I need my eraser here to. We're going to keep it simple. So there's my focal point. Erase that. All right. Now, how can we also help get the viewer to focus on that? By breaking it up some more. So one thing we can do is I'll put in a couple of trees. So I'm going to put one in the foreground. Oh yeah, remember everything we talked about perspective. Don't forget that as well. So you'll notice my this shape is in the foreground. It's getting cropped off, but notice this shape is smaller than this one. That helps us know that it's further away, okay? So if I'm going to put in a couple of trees, I'm going to put the closer one is going to be the bigger one. So balance this out. I'm going to go ahead and put a really tall one here, a really big. Well, it's actually sort of big. And okay, and this triangle's pointing at my house, so that's helpful. This one's sort of leaning a little bit towards it, almost as if it's looking at it. That is helpful. But I can go ahead and stick another tree and create an echo or a rhythm that's going to also help lead us. So that tree needs to be a little bit smaller. And okay, so this now creates just a little bit of a rhythm to help us get to that point there. If we want, we can put in a road. We would do that, made up of curved lines. Again, triangle, think, and that can, oh, we can even think of a curve here. So we could, you know, curve that around, something like that. So all I'm doing as I'm making this up is I'm just keeping these things in mind. Curves, avoiding parallel lines, making things diagonal, and triangles. So, all right, perspective. Notice once again, on the ground, as things get higher on the ground, they go further away. In the sky, it's just the opposite. In the sky, as things come down, they get further away. On the ground, they get further away as they go up. In the sky, they get further away as they come down. On the ground, we want things to get smaller as we come up. In the sky, we want things to get smaller as they come down. So, for instance, if I'm going to put some lines representing clouds, they should be a bit closer together here on the ground than they do higher up, okay? So, oh yeah, in clouds, you know, it's, I don't know, again, you want to avoid this sort of thing for clouds. You know, we're keeping it simple. You can do, you know, this makes sort of a fun type of cloud, but I don't know if it's going to be good for what we're doing because we're sticking very simple. So this is maybe a little bit better for what we're doing. All right. But it's also good to try vertical. And we do the same thing. But, you know, we want to be creative, come up with something a little bit different. And this time, I will not do it yet. And then I'll let you guys go ahead and do your own. Okay, so just try the same thing on your own, and then we'll compare. Well, actually, why don't we do this? Why don't we do it? Because otherwise you might just copy this one here. So we'll do a I'll do a vertical one, and we'll do that together. And again, you can follow me if you want, or you can go off on your own. All right. So this time, what if we divide it the other way? What if we divide, you know, up higher? So we're going to go maybe above. So we're going to have a lot more ground and a lot less sky. Okay. And I can go ahead and, well, why not? Let's put some triangles to represent mountains in the background. They look kind of like pyramids. That's okay. You're going to do something like that. And then we can even do the sky right away. But now, what are we going to do with our foreground here? So once again, let's divide it up. There's, you know, too much there. So diagonal lines, triangles, curved lines. Smaller in the back, bigger in the front. So this will be small, this will be a little bit bigger. Okay, so I divided it a little bit differently. And let's put an emphasis in there again somewhere. Where are we going to put our emphasis? I don't know if you can hear all the noise in the background here. I apologize for that. So all right, why don't we'll put our building here. I'm gonna make it a tall skinny one. I'm putting it right in front. Okay, gonna remember a little bit of perspective. Grab my eraser here. Actually, I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna use a different eraser. Okay, these are very handy. I like these pencil type erasers. You're not paying rent, you can eat out if you don't like the frozen bread. Put in our windows. All right. So if we put in a tree, I want to try and mix it up, so we'll use a different. I wanted to make like candied apples or caramel apples or something like that. We'll do a coniferous tree. But the rest of the house of critters. And then when we decided there's 4 of us. There's 4 of us, and then one of us had to go join us. Okay. Now, I am thinking here again compositionally, because I want this is pretty big. And I want this to be my focal point. It's more interesting, but visually this sort of seems to be challenging it. So we're gonna try to see if we can get the viewer over to here. So I'm gonna pretend this background is like a field.
It's a big bowl. Oh my goodness, that's gonna be super salty. Is it not? It looked like it was coming over.
So fields are often fun to just do just as stripes.
Not a lot of salt. Calm down.
So we just put some stripes in there.
So not a lot came out.
Might be kind of fun to put a simple fence too. So I'm going to imagine that there's a fence coming over the hill here, but this is a hill. So we're going to imagine a fence is curving over this hill. And then it's going to curve this way, and then it's going to curve this way towards the house. So I'm just drawing the line where the fence will be. And then I'm going to draw the line where the top of the fence will be. Okay, so now I'm going to go and put my fence posts in. Actually, let's keep it simple. We won't bother. Okay, so you can see my fence posts are getting smaller and smaller. As we go back, they go down the hill. And now let's get rid of my line that
For one piece of toast.
is there.
Well, then only eat one. Really?
It's a black pepper salad.
And we'll go ahead and
But like, oh, that's what they do, the Montreal steak seasoning.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, man.
I got more
Okay.
than just my water bottle.
Oh, no.
so these are helping now to give the sense that this is curving. You can see it's very exaggerated, which fits with this. But it's also, when it leads my eye to this shape, which is also pointing up, this one brings it right back, and it helps to balance and helps bring us back to the house, which is where I wanted to focus on. And then of course with color, I could make this really bright and stand out. You know, it could be a bright yellow house or a red or something like that for fun as well. Okay, so it we're creating kind of, whimsical and fun. And of course, each person's going to have their own style. So, but what I'd like to do is, because right now, if you're all just, I don't know if you're copying me or trying your own, but what would be really good is to now have you guys do your own now. And you can do, so why don't you choose if you can do another a vertical, another horizontal, or if you wish, you can even make like a panorama type, especially when you're doing landscapes. Panoramas are great. Something like this as well. Okay. So I will go ahead and pause this a minute while we do this, and then we'll share what we have here. Okay, so here we are. We'll share some of our simple landscapes that we've done. And any volunteers to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
I only did 2, but I did that.
Okay, here just a second. I'm going to change my view here a second here. Let me unpin this one. Where'd you go? There we go. Oh, very fun. Oh,
Yeah.
That's good.
And I don't know how to draw a dolphin, but I was trying to draw a dolphin in the water, and then the sailboat. So like,
yeah,
you could be underwater.
Yeah. All you need to do is Yeah, just with the tail, they would get a little bit skinnier. They really sort of follow like a pear shape. No,
Okay.
not a pear shape. What would that be? Like more like the shape, like an eye, you know, where it's pointy at each end.
Oh, like an oval.
Just make them pointy at each end, and then
Okay.
you'll or that. So very fun. And then the one thing that again, diagonal lines are always good, unless, well, I suppose maybe you're creating a real cliff there. I suppose that's where the land in the background on the side. Otherwise, that vertical line, you see where the land ends?
Uh-huh.
It's drawing attention to itself. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's all. It draws attention because it's the only, everything else is very flowy and diagonal, and then here's this one straight line.
Okay.
Because it's standing out as different. So just compositionally, you might want to just even, you know, angle it a little bit, or if it's a cliff, even angle it the other way, maybe even.
Okay.
So, not undercutting. So just a few things to keep in mind there. Cool. Okay, who else would like to go? Otherwise, I'll pick a volunteer. Okay, Reed. Oh, very fun. Okay, oh, so you even threw a little bit of shading in there. Okay, you have a very definite, yeah, so I think you have all curved lines there. Again, just be careful when we're doing trees that we don't get the trunks too big there. Some of the, looks like on, yeah, maybe on a couple of trees, the trunk got a little large for the size of for the amount of foliage, but otherwise very fun, very dynamic, going all over the place. It's very good. Bea, how about you? What do you got? Very good. Nice. Good depth. Yeah, definitely leading right back there. Nice. The house is a little bit, it's okay that the house sort of ends up not being the focal point because it's so far off to the right kind of by itself, which is not bad. I mean, you know, it's not like in a picture, a house has to be the focal point. But just so you know, because the viewer will look at it and they'll follow the trees getting smaller, but your road leads one way and then it turns and leads away from the house. And so just something to keep in mind. Cool. And Teresa, how about you? What'd you get?
I don't know. It's one of these, now it's getting dark here, so it's hard to show you what let's see. How can I do this?
Oh yeah, see it? Oh, you even did it with palm trees. It's fun.
Yeah, I'm doing my view, trying to do the view out my window because I draw a blank when I think of, like, you know, it just comes out of you, landscapes. But I did the fence, which I was pretty happy with because I've never done a fence and that looked hard.
Fun. Very good.
This is fun though. I just don't, it's just hard to get my mind thinking of what to even put in the picture without looking at something.
Yeah, and that can be, which is, you know, kind of why I gave you guys some things to work with, you know, and I suppose they can get a little repetitive as well, you know, if we're doing these all the time. But what it is there are things to work with, even if you don't necessarily like, you know, these examples. It sort of gives you, the idea is just to have something to work with, so we can put elements in there as we, you know, so we break up the space, then we stick some elements in there, but we can certainly change those up. So here's mine, for example. So I tried a real long panorama. Okay, this one here. So I have one tree so far in the foreground that it's even getting cropped off the bottom. So it gets cropped off the picture there. And then, so I divided this up here, and then even like with fields, I have the house. So yeah, just again, referring to Bea's, because I've also put this house way off over to the side here. But the reason why it still does become what helps it still remain the emphasis is this laneway pointing to it. So this tree, our eye will, just so you know, our eye will jump to similar things often, things that repeat. It's rhythm. So from here, the eye will very quickly jump over to this one, which will then lead us up to the house here, and then all these lines. So everything's just subtly pointing over to the house there. I tried a square format and decide to simply do some ocean and like a snow fence or sand, sand dune type fence, little island in the background, and tried more of a long, tall, skinny one. And so we threw in a lighthouse here. Just so you know, a simple way, if you're doing ocean, so let's say if you have a picture, let me quick show this. Anytime you want to create a sense of ocean, that's really crooked, so let's say we put our ocean here up high. How do we create depth? How do we create a sense that this is going away from us? Is to have, so we can just put in lines which represent the waves, but put them close at the back. So the first one really close, then make sure the next one goes a little bit further. And then the next one goes a little further again. And then the next one a little further again. And this is a little unfortunate, those end up being the same length. I would even add on to that just so I can have the bottom one. Okay, so this, even that itself will create a sense of depth. Then if we, do our classic sort of like that.
If this doesn't work, then the thieves actually do steal the bubbles.
Yeah, it doesn't actually.
Throw a very simple sailboat, but we get a sense of depth just from those lines getting closer and closer and closer together. So, all right. So what we'll do now is we'll take one of these and bring color into it. So what I'm going to do is watercolor. So I'm going to work with watercolor. And why don't we, so I'm going to go ahead and do a watercolor one. I'll leave you, of course, you're always welcome to do what you want, but if you want to draw along with me and just, draw the same one that I'm drawing, that's fine. Again, my encouragement, because I'm always encouraging creativity. At some point, we do want to step out and, where we're doing our thing, our own. And even if we're just varying, even if you're working at where you are copying someone, try to, just make simple little changes. Every action you do that is your own is an act of creativity. So we want to bring those, try that as much as we can. All right. So first, so I'm going to go ahead and draw in my rectangle, my frame that I'm going to work on. I'm using a ruler because I do want to keep it fairly accurate. Not really very parallel. You did a really bad job on that. Wow. Okay. Try that again. Yeah, that's a little bit better. There, get my camera a little straighter. And I will go ahead and draw this. Better work with pencil first, and then I'll go over it with pen quickly after that. So again, I'll first divide sky and ground. I'm going to put a lot more ground in this time, a lot less sky. First line curved a little bit. Actually, I just had a, I want to get a little more exaggerated with that, just for fun. Maybe that's a bit too much. I would not normally work with such a dark pencil. I'm doing this so you guys can see it. There, just for fun. All right, so we've got a big sort of hill. We'll again divide that. And divide that again. So it's a bit like a road, I suppose. Go ahead and put another one in the background. Wreath, I just realized this is starting to look a little like yours. You had all the hills, didn't you? Like that. Yeah, so I didn't mean to. Here I'm copying you. Oh, well, I hope that's okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put my house in. I don't really want this to be a road, so I am going to change that. I'm going to make sure that this doesn't end up being a road because I don't want that. But let's go ahead and put our house. I'm going to put my house on this side. And I'm just for fun, I'm going to really exaggerate the angle here.
That's what it is. It's a laugh.
All right.
Wait, am I allowed to get this?
Yeah.
Can I only submerge it in water? Oh.
But it won't need to, it only have
All right, so there is my house. And I guess we'll keep this a sort of field or something.
Oh, yeah.
Kids all have really long hair.
Mom, since when did we get
So this is where I need to, again, avoid parallel lines. All right, I need a little something more in here, like a tree or something like that. I'm going to try, what if we try a more ovalish sort of tree on this side here? And just for fun, we'll do a tree like that.
Never.
Actually, I can erase those after I've drawn my lines in. Let's go ahead and put some mountains, sort of shapes in the background. All of that is helping to point to our house. And then what we'll do is we'll do this with the clouds as well. So now our clouds are even helping to subtly point to our clouds as well. Feeling kind of empty, but that's okay. I think it's going to get too busy if I put anything more there. So we're just going to keep this balanced with the two. No. One more tree. Needs a third. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Needed one more element there. There we go. Okay, I'm liking that better. All right. I am going to go ahead and just, so this is my pen. Yeah, it's the type of pen that has it's like a brush tip. These are really nice for getting a line that changes from thick to thin. So I can also do that as well to help increase the sense of depth by having my lines get thicker as they are in the foreground. So I just simply press a little more. And they just, yeah, just makes them, oop, that got a little extreme. My house looks like it has ears or wings, something like that. A mountain. Sky, clouds. And one more hill there. Now, having done that, I can grab my big eraser and get rid of the lines I don't want much faster. All right, so now we have our playful little scene here. I'm gonna actually go over my frame lines again here as well. Oh, that's my old one. Just because it didn't feel like that was working with the rest of the picture. There you go. All right, now the whole thing feels a lot more unified than it did before. All right, now watercolor. We're gonna take this and watercolor this. One's away. Eraser. Get out my palette. And reset this a little bit. Okay. All right, what I will do is try to see if I can get some of this in the picture as well, so that you can see what I'm doing even when I'm mixing with my palette. First, I'm going to grab all my brushes here. These are brushes I use. I'm not going to use them all. This is just the different sort of brushes that I have. I'm not going to be, that's way too big. I always want to try, so I've never used, fan brush is not normal for watercolor, but I always keep meaning to try, but then I just never get around to it. I have just bought this. It's more of called a filbert shaped bristle, and I really am liking it more than the flat for what I do. So I'm gonna, again, it might be a bit big for this, but I'm gonna remove my flats. I'm not gonna remove my. I don't want to be doing any details. I'm gonna remove that brush. I'm gonna keep it over there. We'll save this one just for possibly mixing up my paints, but then mostly I'll work with these four here, my rounds and my filbert here. I always just use a eyedropper for getting the water into my paints. All right, nice size puddles is always good. Puddles of paint. And so I've got this in cerulean and turquoise is the ones I'll mix up first. And got a bit of a light red here. I'll keep that.
The music in the background is so hilarious. It sounds like
Hear all
you're
that?
watching like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory or something.
Darren, I know these are going to be like the most ridiculous videos because they have like everything else going on in the background. So
Weird thing is, they're louder than you are.
they really.
It must be the echo or the acoustics of the room.
Could be. I'm trying to think. Oh, you know why? It's also because it's right. This is my microphone is probably on this laptop here, which I had kind of far away from me. So,
Oh.
can you hear better now? At all?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not hearing them as much.
Okay. Yeah, I pulled it a little closer. I know. Unfortunately, we don't have a door there to be able to muffle that all. So
It was just funny, and it's going along with the weird, like, shaped trees and the feel of the mood of the drawings and painting.
well, we will learn for the soundtrack to go along with this video. It could be worse, I suppose. There could be arguing or something going on in the background. That would have been.
Yeah, they're having fun, so that's a good thing.
There's actually our son Ryan, if you ever go and look at his YouTube video channel, he has an old one on there from him, oh my goodness, when he was like grade 6 playing guitar. And so while he's playing guitar, he's recording himself. In the background, Darren is playing with a cat, and he's swinging this cat around. He's only a few, he's like really young. It's so funny because he had no clue he was on camera.
Oh my god.
so funny. It's on YouTube. It's actually on YouTube. It's so just hilarious. Him swinging this cat. Okay, so I got that puddle of water there, puddle of paint, I mean, and I'm gonna quick mix these up. I like to use my large watercolor brushes for that. There's my cerulean, and my turquoise. Especially for things like this, puddles are always good. And to keep simplified watercolors interesting, it's always good to have at least 2 colors in each shape there. Okay, now I'll do the sky first. I'm going to kind of work from the top down. Switch brushes, not that one. I'm going to go with this one. Get these out of my way. All right. I need to give myself a little more space here. But I'm trying to make sure you can see this. All right. Now I can do wet on wet, where I wet this sky first and then I dip the color in. Why don't I do it just to demonstrate it? So I can just put clear water down first. And I'm not going to try and keep my colors separate by the shapes. Not necessary, really. I'll follow it loosely. But it's not, I mean, I could, you know, do it. That'd be a different sort of style. All right. One thing I do want to remember is skies get lighter as they come down. So I'm going to brush up as I come from below. So one thing going wet and on wet is I retain the nice soft edges here. And here's where I'm going to I'm just going to now bring in a little bit of this. Oh, I think they're looking at the video now that I was talking about. This may be not the best red for this. I'm going to switch to the darker turquoise. So yeah, it's just the main thing you want to keep in mind with watercolor is if you want soft edges, make sure you are getting it down before it dries. Because once it dries, I'll probably end up showing this here, that edge will stay. And here as well. And we got a bit more color in here. We'll bring a little bit of this. I'm not real fond of the way this color is working. Okay, when I just drop it in here, it's called charging. That's one way to really get your colors bold, is to just drop it in. Just touch it and just let it go. All right, so we'll just leave it at that, let it finish doing its thing. Now, what I don't want to do is paint this hillside here, because if I do, it's going to leak up into there. So I'm going to avoid that for now. While I'm waiting, this is where I should have my hair dryer. So I'm going to prepare my yellow. yellow has gone very crumbly on me. There's different types of brands that do better than this. So sometimes when I paint, this is from tubes, this paint, and you can see like this one's wonderful, it's fine, but this yellow is doing strange sort of things. Okay, so that's ready to go. I need to also prepare some green here. Oops, I just touched my page. All right, into my green, get that ready to go. Be plenty. Yeah, I can see since this is not shiny over here anymore, it's safe to work over here. So I will go ahead and just put this one down. Have tissue ready right away. That's, oh, no, it is leaking. Yep. Okay, so I have my tissue ready to quick mop that up. There we go, save that one. I'll try the other one. Again, always have tissue. I guess I just decided that the light source is going to be on the side of the house, where the side that the house is on. While it's wet, I'm going to quick get some highlight yellow in here. There we go. Let that mix about there. I'm going to grab just a little bit of ultramarine just to drop down here for my, so again, just to charge it to get some shadowy areas there. Okay, in the meantime, I'm going to try this again, see if this will work this time. I think it's going to be okay. Oh, that was my fault. Still wet, so we'll leave that. Leave it at that. All right, so always remember, if you want to make something stand out, oh, I can see this is leaking into my sky up here. Now, normally, if I wasn't doing a demo and trying to be quick, I would be taking a little more time here. Okay, what was I saying? I was saying that if you want to really make something stand out, one of the simplest, easiest ways is to simply do it a new color that's not really anywhere else in your painting. And so I'm going to do red. There's not going to be any other red in here. And it's going to be predominantly green. And so red being the complementary of green, it will help it to stand out. And I'm also going to break another rule, which you're allowed to do, which is I'm going to play around with my light source. So I'm going to actually make this the lighter side and this the darker side. It just sort of feels like the right thing to do. But normally, you know, you don't want to be too quick to do that. I just feel like, for some reason, it feels like to me that this house and this tree are looking at each other. And so it just feels like making that the lighter side will help accentuate that. All right. And this is my raw sienna. I'm going to put this into my field with a little bit of blue in my stripes. And then I'm going to go over the whole thing first. Just going to go over the whole thing. Watch out for my tree there. Okay, notice how often I'm dipping into the water here. Dipping back into my paint. Just barely putting any down before I dip right back in. I want to keep that nice and wet. I don't want that to dry. One problem I find, or one thing that I find a lot of people struggle with watercolor, especially when they switch to working large, is they simply spread the paint out too far. They don't dip in quick enough, and then they get all these unwanted edges. Okay, so don't be afraid to get that paint nice and wet. I'm going to tilt it so it's going to drain down just a little bit there for me. That will help get this to be the darker side. And very carefully make sure I stay back from my tree. Okay, and while that's still wet, I'm going to drop a shadowy bit in here. Cool that down. It's going to take on a bit of a green. That's all right. I'm all right with that. I also wanted to go just a little bit darker here. That might be a bit too much. So you can always lessen that a little bit. Tone that down, soften that out as I bring that up. Come back in with my raw sienna to get that back. So we're getting a little bit of nice texture happening. And a nice little bit amount of shadow side happening there. Creating a nice dull cool shadow down below here. And because it's wet, it's nice and soft edge, so it's a gradual there. And the texture of the paper has also created a nice amount of texture there. I'm just going to get that to flow into there, down to that corner, and now let it flow back out a little bit. Now this is dry enough, so I'm going to go in with a bolder red, switch to a different brush. I'm going to use the same red, but I'm just going to use a little more opaque.
Yeah. When I'm older, so I want to nowhere area, and then so I can pair soft portion. But also, like.
Okay, also while I'm waiting, I can do my background hills. I'm going to just keep those blue. Blue in the distance. It's a bit too much. So while it's still wet, I can very easily dab it up. Lift that a little bit. highlight this with a little more and then do this one. There we go. On this side, that's a nice bit of a softer blue. Normally I would also have a bit of I'd have my scrap paper that I test my colors on, which I could be doing down below here, but I'm actually working on the back of my test paper. So I'm gonna go ahead and give a nice bright green roof, or deep green maybe. Make sure it's dry. Ooh, that's pretty opaque. It's covering up my black. There we go. Maybe I'm gonna let's drop a little bit of yellow in there. And I can always lift some out a little bit to lighten it up as well, maybe near the top. There you go, that's just a nice little bit of a glow. Okay, now because I made this so wet, it is going to mean that I have to be very careful here. I'm gonna go ahead and paint my trunk. And great way to make brown is orange and blue. So I'll just lay in some orange. And I'm gonna add just a hint of blue. And maybe it's a little too much. There we go. And as I do, oh, I forgot to use this one here. As I do the grass, I'm going to I'm going to do wet on wet. I'm going to use my other brush to wet it first, so I can get up in that corner. Hopefully stay back. Stay back from the field so it doesn't leak into the field there. All right, so we're going to make this green, just touch that in there. So one thing that's nice about this round type of brush is I can cover a little more area quickly, but I don't get the hard edge that I necessarily do with a flat. Now mind you, working wet on wet also helps with that. Now, foreground is also good to have that warmer. So I'm really going to warm this up. And then further away cools down. And I'm going to sort of dance it around a little bit, so make sure I don't create any sort of unwanted edges. I can charge at it over here, and you can see I'm creating a nice, really nice gradation there, which we like. Almost like there's a little bit of shadow there. And but I'm gonna, to go to the back, I'm not gonna use that brush. I would need a smaller one. Too much of a chance of getting that wrong. So I'm going to do wet on wet back here as well. And hope my field doesn't leak. Yeah, I suppose it's adds a nice little something for the viewer of this video. Little soundtrack, as I said. All right, so now this can be a little bit cooler in the back. So I might just I'm going to go ahead and put down blue right away. Blue and yellow. We'll see what we get with that. Oh, we got a chunk. So one of the working wet on wet also just makes it much much easier to avoid your paint drying too quick. Which I really definitely need to do for this. Okay, so now so that's still pretty bright, but my green, which I'm going to pull it back up there, is the idea is hopefully that I've got a cooler green than this, which I think I have succeeded in doing. It's maybe a bit too green, feels a bit too different right now. But that's okay, we can always, I can always glaze another green on top of it if I need to. And this is getting even further in the distance, so oh, that might have been too much. So we'll take that out. Get that chunk out of there.
Right there. Find out, well, I don't want to take flash. Really easy, that's just doing that.
All right. So there we have, oh, that's right. I was going to turn my field into stripes. I'm going to do that afterwards, where I'm just going to lay an orange. I'll probably actually use this red here though, but color over top. Can I do it at all right now? But I want it to stay within the lines, so we'll have to weight with that. So yeah, there we go. There's a very simplified sort of landscape. Now, the whole whimsical, exaggerated, that's just simply a style that you don't need to always follow if you don't want to, but the principles all remain the same. Laying this out, you know, how to make things dynamic and attractive, with diagonals, the way the eye is led to one thing from another, balancing things out. Okay, it needed this other little tree here, I felt, to help. There was too much of an empty space here in between here, so you have to balance things around this space without making everything even. Okay, so you know, my foreground tree is, you know, it's larger, but it's simple, so it helps to balance these two guys over here. I feel it's enough to do that without drawing too much attention to it over there. So yeah, I don't know about you guys, what if you've been working or along with me or watching or what. Ooh. All right, so we're gonna, things are dry, so we'll put in, I'm gonna use the same red. I like to repeat my colors, and I'm just gonna try and glaze this over top of the other here.
Now, why are you doing that, Rick?
Putting the stripes.
Oh, you're gonna alternate red and then the other?
Yep, just, I don't know. Just for fun. See how it goes.
Oh, I see. I thought you were gonna paint over all of them.
Whoa. Whoa. Sounds like someone had a bit of an explosion there.
Sounded like broken glass, and then like I don't know.
Was that you, Laura?
Oh, I had my thing muted.
I really like your tree, how you got the different colors in there. Is that like 3 colors or 4?
This one?
Yeah.
This tree? Or
That
Laura?
your tree.
Yeah, that's yellow, green, and blue.
Yellow, green, and blue. I like that.
So I got a little bit of leaking happening here. Oops. But anyway, that's
That's even more Americana.
now I just need some stars somewhere.
I know. Well, put the stars up in the sky.
That's hilarious. I wasn't even thinking of that, but yeah, no. As soon as you said more Americana, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it is, isn't it?
Yeah. You just put
Yeah.
blue stars in the sky, and it'll be like the flag, and oh my gosh.
Oh, too funny. That's very funny. Yeah.
See, you're doing prophetic painting even when you're teaching.
I should be making this. I should be making this like a maple tree at least, or something like that. And then I still have the red.
Oh, I see. Now you're making it Canadian, huh?
Yeah, being that I'm, coming from Canada here. So
I know, but right now America needs your prayer, your prophetic art prayers.
yeah, true. All right. Well, in the few minutes, I'm gonna whip out just kind of with some watercolor. Let me grab, watercolor pastel.
Hey, Rick, I like how the color of the grass is like marrying the color in the tree in the foreground. That's kind of cool.
Background grass.
The foreground grass
Oh, this-
has the same color pattern as the tree pattern right there.
Yeah.
And it looks, I don't know, what is that? Like, that's something's cool about that, but it's.
Well, it is definitely creating a sense of light and a sense of atmosphere. So we're getting this sort of curving round sort of thing happening. Yeah, so it just sort of makes it helps to separate. Also, purposely having this highlight come up against the dark shadow of the tree makes the tree pop out a little bit more. Like if
There, that's what it is. Yeah.
if I would have carried this shadow, which I could have, in actuality or reality, the shadow probably could go a little bit further, but this helps keep the two separate so they're not blending into each other. Yeah, so you always want to, contrast this again, keeping in mind something like contrast. So I was going to show, where'd it go? Another one that I had done with pastel. This was on a tone paper. Same sort of idea. Now this has a different sort of feel to it. So, but I did want to show my little aardvark here.
Wow.
Anteater. There we go. Okay.
Wow.
It has a bit more of a semi-realistic feel. Definitely more than, it's not as whimsical as this one, right? But it's still created in the same manner. This one does not have any sort of building in it. Like buildings aren't necessary, but I still followed just laying it out, just out of the imagination, same sort of way. Just, okay, divide it, the sky from the ground. Then I divided that again into two more shapes. Actually looks like, no, I even had like one coming down here, another one there, and another one here. I threw a road in there. I've got a hedge along the side of the road that goes back, and really, I suppose maybe the focal point ends up being the field here, okay? So this is, pastel, and then I, laid some colors. So it takes on an evening sort of feel, and this is sort of exaggerated the road. It's really, the camera's not showing actually how bright that is, that color that I use, but I've got these very bright warm colors, and then the purples and blues in the shadows here. If I get closer, maybe that will show a little bit more.
Oh, wow.
There, okay, but it's the exact same sort of thing. And if you can just follow the really just following these basic principles of laying things out with diagonals and triangles and curved lines, you can create these great little compositions quite quickly just from the imagination. Now color, I've how to get the color and create the atmosphere, that's part of it too, creating this the bright, and that's another type of study as well. But I can do the same thing here now with black, except I should have my white pencil, which I'm trying to think where that is, because I like to use a white pencil when I work on my black paper. There you go. So I just use white charcoal. Set that aside. And we'll just quick do the same thing, because I'm going to work with pastel. Sorry. I always have people say to me, man, I could never draw. I can't even draw a straight line. Well, as you can see, neither can I. So don't ever feel bad if you, I just was not blessed with a steady hand. So that's why actually, when I want to draw, I kind of use my finger as a guide along here. If I don't feel like grabbing a ruler. So we're going to go really tall and skinny here. Oh, I'm inspired by your barn. So I'm going to do a tall, skinny barn. Teresa.
Okay. I like to see yours.
But I liked your kind of double roof there.
Yeah, I like those with the hayloft.
Yeah, I grew up with one of those.
Oh yeah.
We didn't have a roof, but we certainly had a hayloft. We had so much fun in that hayloft, building forts.
Me too. And my aunt's hayloft and barn and stuff.
Oh, it's so much fun.
One time we left the door to the field, the pasture where the cattle were open, and I don't know, someone must have left it open, but I went into the barn and my cousin's radio was on and all the cow were in the barn just laying around listening to the tunes, man. They just made themselves at home. Anyway, it was just a crack up. It was so funny.
Yeah, cows always love the music. So I'm just gonna do a windmill here.
Rocking out cows. Cows that are rocking out.
I know, it was so funny. Crazy.
Yeah, my grandpa had a dairy.
Like the windmill.
When they milked the cows, they always had the radio playing music to calm the cows.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay, we're just gonna keep this one.
That's so cute. I love it when animals like do kind of things that are human-like.
Human-like. Yeah.
All right, where are my pastels? What? I thought I had my box of pastels already.
Uh-oh.
Ah. So, by the way, I'm just working on cheap construction paper. This is not even pastel paper.
Really?
So, my perspective is way off on the roof of my barn. That's so bad looking, but anyways, I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so I'm just going to lay in the base color, which of course you got to do a nice. Unfortunately, my set of pastel also does not have a white in it.
How can you work with pastels when they're like square and you don't have a point and stuff?
Well, you can actually, it's surprising. You can get a bit of a point. But whenever I get a chance, trying to work on the side and to try and end up creating a point to it. Like, I have like this thin one when I was doing sky, so you can see what I did with it. So I purposely did that so that later on I end up creating a really tiny point so that when I need one, there it is.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have a shadow on this side right away, so I'm gonna lay in some blue. It's a bit of a light blue, which is not necessarily so good, but that's okay. That's one thing that I've really come to like about working with these soft pastels. It feels like there's no end to the amount of layering that you can do.
Huh.
Just keep layering and layering, and this is not even on, and it works better when you're on regular pastel paper. So I'm just laying this all in there. Oh wow, and the camera looks absolutely white because of the lighting. Let me change the lighting here. No, that's not helping. The lighting is making everything much lighter. Because,
yeah.
That's what cameras do. They try to equal out everything because it's mostly black paper.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But it is actually also, in reality though, this shadow, which was supposed to be shadow, did end up getting lighter than this. So I'm gonna lay in a bit of a yellow on the front of this to lighten this up. And I'm losing my red. One of the joys of just practicing and playing with media, with different types of media, is you do get to that point where when an accident happens, you don't panic right away. I'm very used to students panicking. As you know, what I mean by that is I laid that in there, it doesn't even look red anymore. It's very common to easily, oh no, and think we just ruined it. But when you have a lot more experience, you just remember, you know that, you can bring it back. And same with this here. So I will be able to get that, even though for a moment there, it didn't even look like it was red anymore. So you just have to remember all that layering, it takes time, and you don't want to ever judge it too soon. And now I'm going to just press a little bit harder there. And so now we can see I'm getting my values, and values are more important than the actual color. Like, it's the fact that I have a shadow and a highlight. So this dark, this light is way more important than this barn actually looking red. In the end, it's not that big a deal if my barn does not look red. So I'm going to get in here with a darker blue yet. And again, I am working kind of quickly, loosely. If I was doing something more serious, I would be a little more care but that can also get, that can sometimes get so tedious, always having to be so serious about your work. So doing fast things like this, I find such a break.
Hi, Laura Joy.
Laura Joy, are you leaving? Okay, yeah, we have.
I think
There we go.
she said she's going to bed. I'm like, I'm going to bed too. Sorry, guys.
Thank you, Rick.
That is.
Yeah, thank you. Bye, Bea.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Okay, you leaving too? Okay, I will just quick finish this out. All right, but yeah, if you have to go ahead. Grab my pencil here to finish my barn. I don't know if I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna Okay, so I just tried to make this look like that the door is open. And cool colors inside. That definitely needs to be darker than that, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that back anymore. I don't have to have a white outline, but I just sort of figured. That's kind of how it is with these barns. At least not always, but if I'm making a stereotypical type barn, that is. So I'll just quick finish the ground here. We'll pretend that there is a bit of a shadow. Shadow a little bit darker. Wow, that looks like a light blue on the screen. It's actually not. Maybe that's a little more like it. Now it looks too light on the screen. So I get that a little bit darker. So the reason I work on black paper, in case you're wondering, is I like the effect, because you can see the paper through it, and I like the effect of the black against the colors, as opposed to if that was white. So that is definitely way too light. I want to get that darker. There we go. That's a little more like it. Pretend there would actually be a shadow there. Well, and then I would just sort of continue on with the rest of it back here, following that same sort of idea, which again is really just following all the same principles that we did with this here. Laying in our colors, you know, lighter in the sky at the base, darker as we come up to the top. I've established my light source. It's somewhere off to the left here. So I can maybe even lighten the side up of my grass just a little bit. That helps exaggerate this. I am one for exaggeration. I do enjoy pictures that have a little bit more exaggeration than normal. And so that is sort of where I tend to go. Okay, so once again, this is back behind here. So I would make it just slightly, if I can, cool it down a little bit. Not too much. That would be another thing I would do. And then I'd have to try and, well, maybe I can quick finish this out. Maybe it won't take me so long. I think what I'm gonna try and just, if I can just go right over my windmill, and then maybe I'll redraw the windmill back in afterwards. Okay, so I'm gonna lay my yellow, and then I'm gonna lay my blue over top of this right away. Oh, that's a bit much. But I started with it, so I should continue. I don't want to just stop part way. And then let's bring in a little bit more blue. It's not quite so light. So let's get that feeling a bit more green that way. Okay, so it definitely has a cooler feel to it. And it does look green in reality. I see that. What happens if I turn this off or something? No, it didn't change. No, it just adjusts to the other. Funny. Yeah, it's too bad that the camera does not pick up what things really look like. And then let's quick lay in some blue sky. But this is starting to blend in with the roof of my barn. So I am going to make sure that I get a little more contrast there. Get my lighter blue down below. And then I'll get a little bit darker as it come up. So like let's go ahead and put a dark cloud up there. That I don't like that shape that's created. I need to tone down that shape. There we go. And see if I can draw my windmill back in.
You're back on now.
So there's my windmill. Once again,
Oh, nice.
it needs a little bit of a just look a little bit more 3D. There. Okay. So again, just it's quick, it's rough, I guess it ended up being about maybe 15 minutes to create that one. But yeah, you can see they're, I don't know, they're fun to do. All right, well, there we go. We'll leave it at that.
So nice.
A little bit more of a highlight there, okay? All right. So, well, you guys stuck with me right to the end. Thank you. All right, that was kind of fun doing those. We'll put those for anyone again to see the watching the video. Just fun little simple landscapes.